I think that there's a managerial machine
Who's
that
in
decides who's going to be churned out. It's not one person, it's a system. And I think it goes back to the way the government's run. I think the people who we elect to run the government are not the ones running the government. I don't think Joe Biden is really making most of the policy decisions that come out of the executive branch of the government. I really don't.
But give an example of someone who's making the decisions. I know you can't, it's not one person, but there must be a group.
It's not one person. Well, I'm resisting the premise, David. It is a machine. That is the Leviathan. I mean,
who runs the machine?
This is the apparatus. It's the wrong frame. That's the whole point. David,
who built the machine?
In today's video, David Pakman absolutely destroys Vivek Ramaswamy in a heated debate about who's really controlling the government. Now, credit where credit is due. Vivek usually keeps his cool when debating on progressive platforms, but not this time. The moment Pakman presses him on his deep state conspiracy, you can see Vivek start to panic and scramble to defend his claims. And spoiler alert, it doesn't go too well for Vivek. So let's dive in and watch how David Pakman shuts down Vivek Ramaswamy in this heated debate.
Well, I think it's been built over the years from decades of purposeful loss of accountability. I think it was built by people who were elected into office that did not want to actually bear the accountability for their actions, and so quietly devolved power, first from Congress to three-letter agencies, from three-letter agencies to a managerial class that pervades the public and private sector alike. You don't have to take it from what you will see as a crazy Republican candidate, far right or whatever you want to label me on your show. Michael Lind has written about this in a lucid manner. I think that there's a horizontal managerial class that pervades the public, private, and intermediate sectors in the United States that's wielding the decisions.
I just think it would put a lot
matter.
of texture to it if you were able to say, Hillary's
Susan
in the
Rice,
class,
or Susan Rice. I mean, you can give examples of the people
Nancy
who have
Pelosi's husband, or Ellen DeGeneres,
But that's not my view, and I understand the way the game is played. To then
it's not a game. I'm just curious who it is.
David. It's fine. I understand it. I'm having fun with it.
No, but it's not a game.
I understand it.
There must be some people.
David, and I don't say this in an ill-spirited way at all. Just getting to the truth of it, you are like dripping with the viscosity of sanctimony as you ask this question.
No, that's an ad hominem, Vivek. That's unfair. I think you don't want to answer the question. To attack me. It's an obvious question. If there's a machine and a managerial class, someone must be involved. There must be someone.
That's your assertion, David, and I think that my whole premise is that. I think this is true in both parties, but it's particularly true in the modern Democratic Party. I don't think Joe Biden has a choice in the matter of whether he's the nominee or not.
You can keep repeating that, and you can do ad hominems, but you're not really answering.
David, and for you to sort of now claim victim and claim ad hominem.
No, I'm not a victim. I'm fine. I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy.
Of course you are, and so I'm treating you like one. And so I think the viscosity of the questioning is basically resisting the premise of the core point that I'm sharing with you, which is that it is not one puppet master that's an individual.
I agree.
It is a managerial machine that in the Democratic Party, in the Democratic establishment, and I think it exists in the Republican establishment too, is designed to crush the will of everyday citizens and to decide that this is who will be served. Up to you to digest. You're force-fed who you get.
Pause. If you're enjoying this video so far, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. Now, Vivek's whole argument is that there's some mysterious managerial machine pulling the strings behind the scenes. But his whole deep state idea has been debunked time and time again. Government agencies like the FBI, DOJ, and the IRS all operate under strict oversight from Congress and the courts. Plus, most government employees aren't political appointees. They're career officials hired to enforce laws passed by elected officials. Even Trump's appointees like Christopher Wray and former Attorney General William Barr have said there's no secret cabal controlling the government. So if anyone had a chance to prove this conspiracy, it would have been Trump, and even he couldn't find it. But Vivek just keeps spinning vague conspiracies without a shred of evidence. And when Pakman calls him out, you can see the panic start to set in. Suddenly, Vivek's dodging questions, throws out buzzwords, and even tries to flip the script by accusing Pakman of being sanctimonious. And honestly, this isn't the first time Vivek's claims have fallen apart under scrutiny. He loves throwing around terms like deep state to fire up his MAGA base. But when it comes to proving that this shadowy machine actually exists, he's got nothing but empty rhetoric.
I think this is why the Biden documents case. Why don't you hear much about that right now? Why don't you, the open-ended investigation of Hunter Biden? I think these are levers that if Joe Biden tries to act like an agent and say when their time of deciding that he's not the nominee, well, I think that's when you're going to see those investigations then pick up steam to say that, well, you're not getting out of the way. We're going to get you out of the way. I think that is the Leviathan. It is not an individual. It's not individual action. It is collective
But I'm not
action.
claiming it's an
That's
individual. I mean, listen, I think ultimately the audience can evaluate. When I say give me anyone, and you say my questions are when you say my questions are viscous,
one of hundreds of people, the Susan Rices of the world, sure, fit that machine, but it's not one puppet master.
People like
the scene.
Susan Rice.
Yes,
people like
exactly.
Susan Rice.
People of that
All
class,
right,
absolutely.
that's an answer. That could have been the first thing. You know, I mean, I don't know why my questions are viscous.
But I've played this game enough to know to say that Vivek thinks Susan Rice is the puppet master. Behind
No,
the
I'm
scenes.
not
It's
saying
one
that.
Person.
I have no interest in saying that you said that. I just wanted to feel. I just was like, what sorts of people are you thinking about?
There you got an answer. There you go.
Whatever games others might play, I'm certainly not playing with you. I'm just curious who you're referring to, and people can judge it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people have an innate understanding that the people who are the politicians pretending to make those decisions, they're not really the ones making those decisions today. And I think the more clearly we see that, the more clearly we understand the work we have cut out ahead of us to reform a broken system. I'll give you other examples too while we're at it. See, now that you sort of clarified where you are on which premise you're asking about, I think the donor class is part of this as well. I think there's a lot of people who in the Democratic Party, you're told that the Democratic Party stands for one person, one vote.
Right.
Well, I don't think so, not so clearly. I think that the people who are writing multi-million-dollar checks, even though they say you can only give $3,300 to Joe Biden, why is he flying to Greenwich, Connecticut for $25,000 or $50,000 a plate dinners?
And this applies to Harlan Crow and the Koch brothers too, right?
I think it pervades both parties.
Okay, just making sure.
I've been as critical about this in the Republic, but you asked a question about the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I'm against the influence of mega money in politics, period. But
I'm with
this
you.
is when you get to the reality of what that machine looks like. These are inputs into that machine. People who have lived in high levels, but not politically accountable levels of the administrative state that still have the dirty secrets that they're able to use as levers for the people who actually are in power, to the mega donor class that provides the mother's milk that is modern politics in both parties. Yes, I think that is all part of the machine that decides who and who isn't part of eligible to wield power.
Now, Pakman calls out Vivek's contradictions here. 1 minute, Vivek says the machine is all about unelected bureaucrats holding on to power. The next minute, he blames wealthy donors like the Koch brothers for controlling elections. So which is it? A secret network of government insiders or a handful of rich donors? Vivek never really answers, and you can see the panic set in when Pakman presses him for proof. And claiming that donors control every decision ignores the fact that elected officials are accountable to voters, not just their donors. Plus, campaign finance laws limit how much individuals can donate. So the idea that a few billionaires are running the whole country, not backed by evidence. And the real kicker, when Pakman points out that America's government is designed to prevent any one group from having too much control with checks and balances between the branches of government. Vivek has no real response. Instead, he just repeats vague talking points about fixing a broken system, but without any real solution or concrete evidence to back up his claims. It's clear that Vivek's argument doesn't hold up. Bottom line, David Pakman exposes the truth. There's no shadowy machine running the government, just a system of elected officials, independent agencies, and public institutions working imperfectly to serve the people. And if Vivek can't name a single person controlling this so-called machine, maybe that's because it just doesn't exist. But this is it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comment section down below.